guys, how's it going? Welcome to this week's recap video. We've had an interesting 24 hours weather-wise. It's been really hot, like close to 100 degrees and kind of humid. Although I was looking at the humidity yesterday because I'm like, I'm going to screenshot this so I can tell everyone how humid it is because I was just dripping. It was 25% humidity. That shows you how dry it usually is here and how not acclimated we are to humidity. So whenever we go somewhere where you guys are, where the humidity level is like 95% or 90% or whatever, 75% or even 50%, I'm like, ugh.
Yeah.
How do you?
So what's our normal humidity on like a normal
Like 10%.
Summer dry day? Is it 10%?
13%, something like that. And even 25 yesterday. I was like, oh man. This is kind of the worst. And then it stormed last night. Like we had one of those big kind of gully washer sort of rainstorms come through. I mean, it didn't create any big lakes or anything in our grass, but like high winds. My parents lost a big thundercloud plum tree right at the entrance of the nursery, which turns out it had heart rot, just like our mulberry tree did. Thankfully, we took that out.
It's nice that nobody was at the store when it came down.
It's just, that's a scary thing, and it's something you don't see.
And it looked like from the photo that it landed in the walkway.
For the most part, I don't think they sustained much damage other than the tree being gone. So we went down there this morning just to say hi and like commiserate, because we understand how that feels to lose a tree. But I was standing there thinking like, this is a breath of fresh air, to be quite honest. Like, yes, the shade is nice and the tree was nice, but now you have an opportunity to create, I mean, it's right at the entrance. You can create something completely different up here.
Yeah.
That's fun. I think I've had to learn to roll because we've had to take out and or have lost so many things, and it's just part of the process. We have to stay positive about it. Anyway, it's been storming this morning too. It's been on and off like sputtering rain, but like lightning and thunder and dark skies. And
I kind of like it. It's nice in the summertime, honestly, to have those days because it's a reprieve from the heat.
Yeah.
And I think it's not the wind, but it's everything else is so much better for our plants.
Right. You guys, we are running a sale on EDDHA chelated iron. 25% off 1 week sale starting today. I think the sale price will be reflected. You don't have to have a code or anything like that. But it's something that we deal with a lot here, our chlorosis, because our soil is so high pH. It binds up all the nutrients in the soil that alkalinity does. And there might be iron there. It just can't be taken up by the plants because it's bound by the alkalinity. So we get, like, the symptoms are dark green veins in your leaves, but the rest of the leaf tissue turns yellow. Mm-hmm. And eventually, if the problem is bad enough, the edges will start to burn, then the whole leaf will burn, and it could take a tree out or a plant or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like the most susceptible things are roses, like maple trees, hydrangeas,
strawberries.
Yeah.
Although ours are looking great. I've been keeping a pretty close eye on ours. Mm-hmm. So far, so good on those.
Yeah, it works. It works wonders. It's one of those things that we tried some of the other approaches first and then learned that it's like...
the other approaches are slower. Mm-hmm. And it's not a bad thing, I think, just adding those things in, like the elemental sulfur to help lower the pH and just kind of continuing that as just a general practice for areas that have high pH. But the EDDHA is a synthetic form of iron that has been formulated to where the plants can immediately take it up. It's more of a quick shot, which sometimes that's what you need, like a quick B12 shot. So anyway, it's something that we also have in Proven Winners has in their annual fertilizer. I have this sitting here still from last week. But it keeps like Super Tunia and Super Bell leaves really nice dark green color.
So if you don't need the fertilizer, but you just want the iron, you can get it.
Right. Anyway, gardenanswer.com, 25% off starting today for 1 week. First video from this past week was planting out flower seedlings, a tulip tree, and then Erin did a hose link versus a Vigo hose reel comparison. Well, I can't remember what flower seedlings I planted out. I think we did feverfew, artichokes. Was that it? I can't remember. The tulip tree we planted in the east side of the barn flower bed that now is there and is beautiful and I love it. Okay, first question is from Lisa. Did you pre-soak your pumpkin seeds before direct sowing? I didn't. I've heard of people doing that. I have never pre-soaked my pumpkin seeds, not ever one time. And I've heard of people also like snipping them. I've never done that either. I think as long as you keep them moist enough, which you should be doing really with anything you're direct seeding until they germinate. I've never just had a problem with it.
What does that mean, keeping them moist enough?
Well, just making sure the soil doesn't ever like completely dry out.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I mean, like the very top layer can dry out because, you know, this time of year when it's really hot, the top layer dries out fast. You'd have to be there out there all the time. But those seeds are a ½ inch underneath the soil. You just don't want that layer to completely dry out so that the seed dries out. Once you get that, like introduce moisture to that seed, you want to keep moisture on that seed to where it can like swell and start germinating. The only seeds that I usually pre-soak are sweet peas. And even then I've planted them without pre-soaking them before I knew to pre-soak them, and have had pretty good luck with it, thankfully. Mary said, can you guys paint the metal roof? My parents had their big red barn roof painted years ago. It looked good for a long time, but it wasn't shiny metal like yours. You know, I hadn't even thought about painting the metal roof, but ours is pretty like...
kind of wavy.
It's kind of wavy, and it's like separate. It's not like one big sheet.
Right.
Like it's separate. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Well, I already got a bid. I contacted somebody and I got a bid, and honestly, it didn't seem egregious. I saw the amount and I was like, oh, okay, maybe that's the route we'll go.
Yeah. So we've been talking about the barn roof, especially once the flower bed on the east side was put in, and then, you know, the snow load. Eventually, once the hydrangeas are big enough to catch it, they would catch snow load or rain when we get a big rainstorm. Right now, they're so little and they sit back just far enough to where the line is like right in front of them. So we're good to go for now.
Sure.
But like next year, it's going to be something that we need to really think about. Yeah. And I think, too, just for the overall health of everything in that bed, there's probably boxwoods that the snow would come and, you know, sit on.
Yeah.
I also saw somebody, and maybe it's in here, say something about heat tape. I remember that was a thing during Snowmageddon.
Yeah, it's never been an issue on this roof, but, you know, it could be an issue.
What's an issue?
What's that called? Something damming when it...
Oh, ice dams.
Ice dams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right. I didn't even think about ice dams.
Because the snow has always just like flowed off of this metal roof because it's pretty high pitch and it's slick and it slides off the metal. It's never been an issue there. But yeah, maybe that's something I could ask the roofers. I wonder if there's something you can put underneath that will... that you can keep plugged in. That
just need it on that one side. Like, who cares if it falls into the lane right here?
Yeah. Well, anywhere that you are stopping the snow, because we would get those snow stops on the even the metal roof, and so if that stops the snow from sliding off, then maybe it wouldn't be a horrible idea to have the heat tape or the heat coils. I wonder if that can be installed underneath the metal.
I have no idea. That would probably...
It's a good question to ask.
That'd probably up the price just a little bit.
Well, I don't think those heat tape or coils are expensive, though.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
seems like it would be something that was expensive.
No, I think it's like buying a heat mat or something for seedlings. Like those things they're not expensive typically.
Hannah said the hose reel comparisons were so helpful. In a past video, you showed how you used concrete to fill a hole for the 1-inch pipe that was used to hold a hose link. In this video, you mentioned that you could pound in the 1-inch pipe. Have you installed the pipe just by pounding it into the ground? Most of the time. If so, is just pounding it in adequate enough to hold up? How deep would you suggest it go down if doing it that way, and how much pipe do you leave above the surface?
I would try to do about 2/3 under the ground and 1/3 above the ground. And if you do that, it's going to be solid. We can do that because we don't have rocky soil.
Or sandy soil.
Yeah,
it's
or sandy soil.
Like hard pan. If you can get it 2/3 of the way down.
Which you can do with a post hole pounder. So we can do that, but you might not be able to do that. But, if you can't, maybe buy a Garden Answer auger and just.
There you go.
Dig, because you would only need, like a 7-inch hole would be sufficient. But the 9-inch.
If you were doing concrete.
If you were doing
around
concrete.
It. Yeah.
But yeah, for us, we can just pound it in. But if you have rocks, might be tough.
Yeah. And as far as how much we leave above the ground, usually with the metal pipe, it's fairly lowish. Like 2 feet would be like the highest that we've got around here.
Yeah, you just need to sort of you're right. But each person should just go out there with maybe 2 people. One person just hold it, kind of like hover it in the air, and just measure like what feels like the right height that you want your hose link to pull from.
Or like what plant, how high do you need it so it doesn't rake over the top of plants? Or do you want it to be hidden more and want it lower to the ground? Because you could do that as well.
Yeah.
We've got ours at varying heights.
That's just a decision that each person needs to make based on what your surroundings are. So just, hold it up there and then get a tape measure, figure out how far above the ground.
Trella Warner said, or Trella, how often do you have to change a hose reel? Not very often.
No, we've had a couple that have crapped out on us, but we've got like 30 of them. So, and we've been using them for a number of years.
2 or 3, possibly.
Yeah, something like that, maybe.
Pretty good ratio.
I feel like we work them hard.
We do work them very, very hard. Nick said, when you dug out the spruce from the pot by the dumpster, I noticed the bushes in the background lining the fence. How are they doing? I remember a video when you planted them. Are they performing as you hoped? All of them except for one, which it's doing fine so far. The one you replaced it with.
Yeah.
There's one hole in that whole line. Do you remember how many we planted?
I think it was 4.
No, I mean along the whole line of arbs over there.
Oh.
You remember?
Yeah. I replaced, I think it was 3.
No, but how many arbs total do we have planted along that fence line? Sorry, I could have been more pointed in my question. Is there like 60 or 5?
Yeah.
Something?
80?
It's over 50. It's a lot of them. So initially we had 4 that we had to replace.
I think just 3.
Oh, just 3. Okay.
I think that there was 3 that went bad.
Okay.
So I replaced 2 of them with the replacement, and then one of them I had to replace 4 times. It just would not take. And so far, this one that I put in this year looks good. So fingers crossed.
Yes.
I don't know what it is about that spot.
I don't either, but all the rest of them are doing great. It's interesting though, because our soil changes. So as you get further toward the flower shed, like the strawberry area, the soil must be better because those are lush and beautiful and they're taller. As you get closer to the dumpster, everything struggles.
Yeah.
Like there's a huge, big area in there, arbs included, and the whole planting, where we've got the big spruce tree and that stone pathway that kind of goes through. This soil is so hard. It is so hard, like it makes the auger smoke when I dig holes over there. Yesterday, I was planting some annuals out there and I had my little 3-inch auger, which usually just zip, 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 zip. I had to almost lay on it. Like I was putting my stomach, I was putting my hand on my stomach and then putting all of my weight and pressure that I could on that auger to make it down far enough for a 4-inch annual.
Wow.
And I'm just praying that those plants survive whatever I just planted them in because, Oh my goodness. It's probably too, you introduce water and it does soften up the soil a little bit more, but it's still like you're kind of planting it in a little coffin in there. Hey, baby. Paula said, I noted the trees in the pots in front of your barn are getting pretty big. Will you need to move them soon? Probably.
They've got to be rooted in.
Oh, I'm sure they are.
They're into the ground.
They're so pretty. Of all the looks we've done in the barn, I've loved a lot of them, especially right at the beginning, right after I get them planted and they're fresh and tidy. And then every single thing I've done there has become this monstrosity of annuals and I don't know.
Those pots are so weird. We do need to figure out something.
The pots are weird?
Yeah, in front of the barn.
Oh, they are?
Yeah, I don't like those at all.
Really?
I don't feel like they fit with our garden anymore.
What do you think would fit better? Something concrete? They're like a resin that were tan to start off with, and then I painted them black. I think they're pretty.
I think maybe we need something permanent. I don't know. I'm not really sure.
Huh.
We need to figure out a more permanent solution.
I feel like pots is a good look going forward. I don't think planting an evergreen straight in the ground will look appropriate.
Yeah.
I know you've mentioned that before, like planting a North Pole, but I think it needs to have to look balanced and proper. There needs to be some kind of something underneath it.
Whatever goes there needs to be shorn. It needs to have a...
Sure.
Does that make sense?
Like a little more, not topiary, but a little bit more tidy.
Tidy is the right word.
I could agree with that. Those are green giant arborvitaes in there.
They're not tidy.
They're not, but the first 2 years they were in there, they looked really beautiful. And they look beautiful still.
Yeah.
They're green, they're healthy, but they are getting a little bit I don't know, taking over the space.
Maybe we need to go back to pots and just do annuals again. Maybe it just should be...
I don't know. I love the look of something deep green and evergreen in front of the barn. And it's one less place that I plant annuals. I plant so many annuals. There's some spots that I just don't want annuals.
Okay, well, what if we move the pots out? In the summertime, we bring in pots with annuals. And in the wintertime, we bring back the arbs.
Perhaps. I do think those are going to need to come out of the pots fairly soon, and it's going to be a beast.
I don't think you're going to be able to get them out.
Because those, like the pot shape is kind of like this, which is what you want, but the top kind of does this. So there's like, there's room for the root ball to catch on the sides.
Right.
So we'd have to do a little cutting. I don't think it would be that big of a deal, but they do need to come out and go into the landscape.
Just
maybe
cut the
next
pots.
spring. I loved the boxwood spirals in there.
Yeah, it just gets too hot.
I know.
They just can't quite cut it.
Raven said, why not plant the flowers in the flower garden you work so hard on? I don't understand planting in the dirtlands when you have a beautiful flower garden with nothing in it. Because it looks beautiful with nothing in it. I love seeing the structure and the breathing space.
You do have other plans for plants.
I do.
In that space.
And I have them in my possession. I didn't want to make any hasty decisions and just like throw stuff out there like I normally do. I normally do that. Like I kind of put the cart before the horse, and then I just throw stuff out there, and then I end up having to move it. And I wanted to move a little bit slower, and I really don't want a cut flower garden. I just, I don't know, the way this spring has played out has been so much more pleasant.
Yeah.
I mean, so much more pleasant, because cut flower gardens are a lot of work. And I don't know. I just learned some things about myself, and I still want flowers to cut, but I enjoy growing them more than I enjoy cutting them. And I like to see them in the space out in the garden. Like that brings me more joy than cutting them all the time and bringing them in. And we're not growing them to sell them. And cut flower gardens, when you're growing to sell, do not look like what we had out there, because you're cutting things before they open a lot of times, or when they're just mid-open. You're not like seeing the full bloom go on. So it's kind of a different, it's like a row crop flower bed is what I had going on out there.
Yeah.
And it's just allowed for so much more time to focus on other things this spring, like creating the new flower bed and doing things like that. I have more brain space for that. And having a space out in the dirtlands, that is kind of my outlet. Having just a couple of random tilled up rows out in the middle of weeds, there's some major freedom in that. I can just toss whatever I want out there. There's such low standards. I don't really care. I mean, I do care. But like if things don't survive or don't come up or don't do amazing, it doesn't matter. You know, it's not part of the larger plan here.
Sure.
In the end. And I do like seeing baby hedges. I almost like baby hedges better than like full grown hedges for some reason. I just love seeing that potential out there without a bunch of fluff around it, kind of like masking it. Paige said, Laura, do you have an update on the 2 mint plants you cut back and treated for aphids a little while back? I hope they're doing better. I will go get video right now, and I will show you what they look like. I've got cushions coming for this furniture. You see right here. But here are the mint plants. So you can see I've added 2. This one right here is the lavender mint that we cut back and treated for aphids, and that one is the Swiss Ricola. Then we've got spearmint right here, and we have French peppermint. And Samantha has the most beautiful rock. You cleaned it. That looks gorgeous. And there's Russell. So that's my little mint patch right there. Okay, there you go. Amy said, any of the hose link malfunction? If so, how many years did it start to malfunction?
Oh, we kind of answered that. It's hard because like we have so many. We didn't mark them. Like we bought this one this year. We bought this one this year. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I would say my personal opinion, regardless of how long they last, it's worth it. It's worth it to get a hose reel personally. Like the joy of pulling something out and just having it retract on its own. Even if they don't last forever, whatever you pay is worth it.
Right. And I thought you did a really good job, a very fair comparison of the 2 you were comparing.
Yeah, I hope nobody took away from it that I don't like hose link. Like by no means are we going to replace.
We've just talked about hose link more through the years because we have so many of those reels.
Yeah.
But you just kind of like did like straight up comparison between the 2, and
they both seem like both the Vigo and the hose link seem to be good, and I would just recommend whichever one is cheaper, as long as it's a high flow.
High flow.
And you may disagree if you don't care about how much water comes out.
Oh, I don't know who wouldn't want high flow. Like, I want it to take longer.
Yeah, to get water out.
Said no one ever.
Right.
Now you've since ordered a different reel that you're going to try.
Somebody suggested I get it's a Glahoden. It's like maybe a German brand or something. It was fairly inexpensive on Amazon.
It's in
so
a box.
I ordered that one. Yeah.
In the barn.
I haven't tested it yet. And then a lot of people were asking about some other brands like Giraffe, which, you know, the people at Giraffe, I feel kind of bad. They sent us like 7 hose reels one time.
I remember that.
And we tested them, and, you know, we don't have any of them out in our garden. So if that tells you...
What was the main thing on that? I think, if memory serves, right where like the wand connects or something, it wanted to kink.
It would kink there.
Yeah.
You can't attach the hose reel in the same way as the other ones that we have. It was like a proprietary, I don't know what you call it, like mounting. The mounting bracket was different than the rest. And so you can't easily take them off like a hose link or like a
You have
Vigo.
to buy into that brand specifically and have
Well,
them
kind
everywhere.
of. And we move ours around a lot. We'll
we
like
do.
pull it off and we'll take it somewhere and, you know, put it back or whatever. So yeah, being able to put a 1/2-inch pipe in the ground.
And then
That's
use
kind of
whatever.
our-
Yeah.
Then you can put a Vigo on there, or you can put a hose link. And then the Glahoden or whatever also has the same type of a
good.
deal, which is why I got it.
I want to see what that shroud looks like.
Yeah, I don't like it. I don't like the
really?
look of it. So like it already is losing points, but it was cheap. It was like $160 for a 100-foot.
Oh. High
Which
flow?
is, I don't know.
To do another test
Yeah,
comparison.
it's a 5/8 inch hose though.
Which is my preferred size of hose. 5/8 inch.
So it's not a 1/2 inch. So I assume that means it's more of like a high flow. So anyway, we'll see.
Okay, next video is creating a new flower bed from start to finish, sort of. We already had one tree planted, but largely it was from start to finish, showing you how I kind of was visualizing the flower bed. I brought bricks over and set them down so that I could visually see the separation between flower bed and driveway. We planted another tree, planted a hedge of boxwoods, planted a hedge of hydrangeas, a climbing rose, and a bunch of annuals. It was a big project. It was warm that day too. I remember that.
Yeah.
And I think that night was your parents' retirement party. And so
yeah.
I was like busting it, trying to make sure I could get it all done, and everything worked out just fine.
And the fish came that night.
Yeah.
Although I think that ended up in the next video.
It felt like there was just a lot of things going on, but I was so pleased with how that flower bed came out. I just love it so much. BCAF said, am I the only one wondering how Laura is going to get in that flower bed once it's a full hedge? Just hop over. The 2 boxwoods at the very, I guess, beginnings toward the barn are going to be round. There'll probably be a little bit more of an opening there because I don't want them to be, well, they'll be attached to the boxwood hedge in the front. It's likely I might leave them all spheres.
Oh, wow.
I need a machine. I need a machine that you can just like over the top and it just shears your boxwood into a ball.
They have those in like commercial growing, but those are more, I don't know.
Are they like on an arm to a tractor?
Yeah.
I need like a portable unit.
Right.
That I can just put over the top of something. We should come up with something. Blades.
Well, maybe you could get like a hydraulic attachment for the Bobcat. I wonder if that's possible because I would think it's got to be pretty similar, like the arm that they use in commercial growing. Like it's probably a thing, and they're right next to the road, so you could get right up next to it with the Bobcat.
Perhaps. Pamela Springs said, I'm only halfway through your video and this is probably my favorite garden area. It looks so good. Thank you. Formal and structured so perfectly. I can't remember what kind of boxwoods those are. Can you remind me, please? I'm doing a lot of boxwoods at my daughter's and would like to find some like those. I think a fountain in the middle would be awesome. It would be awesome. However, there is the Dream Stream like 30 feet away. And then there's also the pineapple fountain right behind the chicken coop. Another fountain would be beautiful right there. But I'm thinking it's going to be something statuesque or I don't know exactly what it'll be. Maybe it'll be a specimen plant, like a specimen evergreen, very small one. I'm just not sure. I just kind of want to see how that whole area comes together. Might be a big container, kind of like akin to the bottom of the fountain that we're using as a container, something scaled a little smaller for that. I don't know. The boxwoods I am using are the new gen boxwoods that are coming into the Proven Winners line next spring. Or I think they're like technically in the Proven Winners line now, but you can still probably find them in their old new gen cans or containers with those tags. But the ones I planted were Independence and Freedom. Freedoms grow 3.5 feet tall by 3.5 feet wide. The Independence grow 3 by 3. Now, the Independence, I don't know if it's just how they've been treated. They came from the same place though, so I'm guessing that both varieties have been treated the same. But the growth habit, the structure of the Independence is perfection. They're just like these perfect spheres with beautiful branching, like lateral branching, very strong and sturdy, which
was kind of your complaint with the sprinter.
Yeah, because they grow up like almost
fingers.
like ferns, and then just want to over when they get too much rain or too much snow load. They don't create lateral branching in my experience like some of the other boxwoods. So I'm so excited about these. And when we were unboxing, Bethany came over and we were all looking at the plants. She's like, man, those look fake. They look like they're so thick and waxy, and they do. They're kind of an unreal look to them.
Yeah.
And I've looked at lots of boxwoods
Which
throughout
is kind
the
of
years.
what you want. I mean,
Yeah. The other variety in that line that's coming in is called Liberty Bell. Can't remember what size. They might even be smaller. I didn't get any of those. So hopefully I'll get to try some of those out at some point. But I'm so far impressed. We'll have to see how they do going through a winter. They're supposed to stay a lot greener than other boxwoods. So were the sprinters. They were supposed to stay greener, and they bronze.
Yeah.
Maybe worse than the winter gems that we have. But these, we'll see. So I'll be able to report back to you guys on how they do. But I'm so excited about it. Marcella said, what variety is your tulip tree? The leaf is slightly different than ours. They are wonderful trees. We have 2 on our property. Ours
I
just
think
said
this
tulip
is
tree.
some kind of a hybrid, because like a lot of people call them poplars.
Okay. Tulip poplar.
Yeah, but are they related to poplars maybe? Because we have poplars, but ours are like cottonwoods. Mm-hmm. Anyway, I think it's some type of a hybrid. I don't know. It just says tulip tree though.
It does.
So I'm not. Does it have a Latin name on it on the tag?
I can look it up. They're from Schmidt. So let me look it up really quick. So botanical name is Liriodendron tulipifera. On J.F. Schmidt website, which is where the tree came from, it says they grow 60 feet by 30 feet, which a lot of other places say they will grow like 60 to 90 feet by 30 to 50 feet. So I don't
think they'll get that big in our area.
Probably not. Most things just don't unless they're a elderberry. Elderberries just grow like crazy here, and junipers. So I am kind of guessing it will stay on the smaller end of that spectrum.
Are they going to need to be treated for anything?
It says to watch out for scale and aphids are the most common insect pests.
Oh yeah, people were talking about aphids. Mm-hmm. Yeah, well.
Yep, we can handle that, though, I think. Anyway, I'm excited about it because I don't have a lot of experience with tulip trees. These are the first. Well, we did plant one last year, but that doesn't count because it was mid to late season and it didn't grow at all. So we'll see what happens. It leafed out beautifully this spring. So now we have 3 tulip trees on our property. Ross said, thank you always and forever for your content. Am I the only person who hears tulip tree and thinks soft-wooded? I'm just concerned about branches falling on your future new metal roof. Yeah, I think tulip trees are more of a softwood sort of situation. But again, I don't have a lot of experience. You guys could probably speak to that more than I can at this point. But I mean, we have willows, so.
Yeah.
Speaking of softwood, we did a little trimming last night of trees. Aaron and I just went around with the pole chainsaw and loppers. And I started by pruning a couple of branches off the weeping willow right outside this door. And it's like cutting through butter. Like there is no resistance whatsoever. And then we were cutting on crab apples and birch trees and a walnut. And those are very different.
What I was surprised by was last year when we were cutting the, what's that called? The sumac? Mm-hmm. That thing has like no resistance at all. That
just popped right, like I don't
you
know.
could just break it with your hand.
Yeah. With that eradication of that was absolutely no problem whatsoever.
Yeah.
I think everyone was kind of concerned for us.
Yeah.
No suckers, it's like it never existed in our space after that day. Like we never had anything come up.
Let's try
again.
bamboo.
Oh, no, because I can see how the bamboo's growing in my pot. Like it took a long time. We planted that this winter in a container. It's saucered and it's lifted up on bricks. And underneath it is a layer of gravel and landscape fabric. So like it would have to go through multiple layers to get somewhere. But like all of a sudden I saw all the new shoots coming up out of the pot. But yesterday I was doing a little bit of maintenance in the greenhouse and I needed a couple stakes. So I just went over there and cut some of the older looking branches and just took the leaves off of them, and I had my own stakes right there. It was so awesome. Amy said, I'm so excited to see how this new barn bed comes out. Question, didn't you have hydrangeas lining the side of the barn in the past but didn't do well? What makes these hydrangeas different from the ones in the past? I think we know how to treat hydrangeas a little bit better than we used to.
We didn't know about chelated iron back then.
We didn't. And I don't think we had the water properly worked out. They were stressed with spider mites because the scarlet curls willow that was here when we moved in was just covered in mites every single summer. And we just didn't we didn't have the experience under our belts with hydrangeas specifically to take care of them properly. So that row of hydrangeas sat away from the barn. What do you think, like 8 feet?
Yeah.
Or so, because there was a little walkway and then like a railroad tie and then the flower bed. And they were firelight hydrangeas, which we don't have any firelights.
No, we should plant, you know what? Over here, we should plant some.
We should.
Because they'll get afternoon shade or like evening shade.
But even if, I mean, they're a paniculata. Paniculata are the only type of hydrangea we can plant out in the sun. You know the macrophyllus, I'll probably talk about it in this video, but the macrophyllus we just planted in the containers near the brick patio, the Let's Dance Bojangles. Aaron and I moved those pots last night because they were getting just a little bit too much sun, and it's not that much in that area. And the plants were like, and all the blooms were all wilted every single afternoon. So I thought, I'm not going to fight this. Cut the drip, plugged the drip up, and moved them over to where the seating area is. And they look beautiful right there. They're just touchy.
Yeah.
Touchy. Dancing Through the Life said, I keep wondering how many trees have you planted thus far in your garden? It must be nearing 1,000. Can we please get a tree tour? Pretty please? We should go through one evening and like count all deciduous trees.
Yeah.
And then the next evening go through and count all evergreens, like big ones.
Yeah.
And then like all hedging evergreens.
Yeah. There's some overlap because like, do you count an arb as a tree?
No, I think you could do a separate category. Like these are how many large-ish evergreens we planted as a hedge. That door's fixing to open.
Well, it's because Russell is pushing on it.
Russell, quick.
Yeah, we should.
We should do that.
Go around and tally.
Gardening Spirit said, I'm such a visual person. I know exactly what she means when she says that. What about the fountain near your kitchen, the one you tried using beads to redirect the water and decided it would be better not to be used as a fountain? That might work well as a statue there. The new bed is so pretty. Good call on 2 trees. That would be a pretty piece right there.
Yeah, anywhere that you put one of those fountains, though, we need to put one of the aquascape basins underneath it.
Right.
Because there's so much that spills out that we need a layer of rocks, gravel on top of it, and then just let it spill into the gravel and then have the pump actually down in there. So you can have a really big reservoir.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. Because
we could do it there because it's all annuals. And that area, once the annuals are gone, we could dig as big a hole as we wanted.
There's pipes in there. And only one of them has water. But we could redirect. If we do it in the fall where it doesn't really matter.
But I don't know in the end if I want water there. With the stream being so close by, like that seems like a lot.
Yeah. Oh, I was talking about up by the kitchen bed. You're talking about over here.
Oh. Up by the kitchen bed. Yeah, that would be a good idea right there.
Yeah, if you want to keep that there.
I've been poking around on different people's websites because I am down at the garden center. They're putting in an order to Athens concrete. And so I've got like a couple pots that I added onto their order. And they've also got concrete saucers just like on their own. And you can order them in whatever color finish you want. And they're 17 inch and 22 and 20. I mean, just all these different sizes and shapes. There's like rectangular saucers and square ones.
Order a ton.
I did. And I also ordered a ton of pot feet because we're using a lot of bricks around here, which bricks are fine, but yeah, they don't look as good as like actual pot feet. So I ordered a bunch of those. But yeah, I want to find the perfect piece for that area.
Yeah.
And I've been looking too for the east flower bed we were just talking about, just to find that perfect piece. And it might take a few years, and that's okay.
I still think that we need to get round concrete, like stepping stones, to put the pot feet on.
Yeah.
Then put the pots on top of that.
So that you can level that stone.
Yeah, level your stone, make sure that's level, then do the pot feet. And do the stone to where it's even with, maybe even bury it by a 1/4 inch.
Then you've got like even weight distribution on, or you know what I mean? Like there's more, because if you put your pot on 3 bricks or 3 pot feet on the soil, one of your feet can start to sink and then the whole thing kind of.
Yeah, and maybe you put the little concrete stepping stone down, put your pot feet on it, and then cover up the stone with
like slough a little bit of mulch over the top.
to where you just can't see it. So it looks like the pot feet are on the soil, even though they're not.
I like it. Allison said, do you have any concerns with snow breaking the hydrangea stems in winter? I struggle with needing to plant things near the house when we have a metal roof and get heavy snow here in northern Michigan and tend to lose things. So we were just talking about that. And there are some little things, I don't know what they're called. They're like little nubs that come out of your roof at different levels. And I think they're meant to help break up the snow load. That doesn't still mean that the snow is not going to come off the roof in chunks. It's just not going to come off all in one big one, right?
Can you just heat the whole roof?
Well, we just talked about doing the heat cables. I don't know.
Usually the heat cables are just at the bottom to stop from ice damming. but I wonder if you could heat the whole roof.
That just seems like such an inefficient just to have.
Yeah,
some
but we don't get
plants
snow
grow
that
it.
often. So yeah, it would be maybe inefficient, but
I
you're
guess you
only
could-
going to run it a couple times.
That's true. You plug
year.
it in, or rev it up when.
Because we kind of know
when
when
you
snow
know.
is coming.
Yeah.
So like we would probably turn it on less than 7 times a year. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah, so if it's like kind of melting the snow as it's coming down
Yeah.
from the sky, then it's going to be like a little bit more of a rain trickle than.
Right. And we'll have
a deluge.
gutters, so it'll just direct the water away
And we just need it on the
on
east
the one side. I wonder if that's possible.
That would be nice. Yeah.
The roof guy's going to be like, "What? What do you want?"
You guys, on this 100-plus-year-old barn? Like, really? Eileen said, I know you keep on talking about limbing up the trees so they don't interfere with your barn, but are you not afraid of root damage to building or foundation? I have many mature trees and don't know why the previous owner planted so many trees so close to the house because I'm paying for it in more ways than one over the decades. Yeah, I probably wouldn't do that right up next to the house for sure. I mean, it's definitely something to consider. The barn, I'm not as concerned with.
Well, you know what? There are different perspectives. I think, if you go talk to somebody who is like in construction or builds homes, or I don't know, somebody who's a plumber or an electrician or whatever, they have different perspectives on when things go wrong because they look at it as like, oh, that's a bummer, that broke. It's about an hour project to fix. But for someone who's not handy or doesn't have people that they can rely on that can fix things, it's like a monument. It's like their whole summer is ruined because of this, thing that for someone else is just like a minor inconvenience. Mm-hmm. And I kind of feel like our perspective is sometimes like that when it's like, yeah, we're going to plant this tree right over a sprinkler line. And yeah, it might break, but it's going to take us like an hour somewhere.
When it does break, we'll fix it.
Somewhere down the line, it's going to take us about an hour or 2 hours to fix. And it's like, I want the tree there. I'm willing to just, when it breaks, we'll just fix it.
Yeah.
And so I think our perspective sometimes is different than others who don't have people they can rely on.
Well,
or
that and
don't know how to fix things.
It's like what our job and our life is centered around. So it's, something that we're a little bit more
foundations
willing
are bigger things, I get, but
what's the foundation of the barn? Like, we're standing where they just poured concrete directly on the soil because it was a barn. I mean, it was just like a pole barn sort of situation. And it was a horse barn, there were stalls on that side. You can see where the windows are. There were stalls there at one point in time, and then they just poured concrete. Like the concrete's not level. I don't think in any of the bays. It's not in here.
No.
Because we just had like cheap linoleum put down in here, and there's spots where it's like they just couldn't get it.
Yeah.
I don't care.
The guy that did the flooring, he put down kind of like a self-leveling, like something on the ground to kind of make it a little bit better.
It's largely fine. I don't even really notice it, and in here it doesn't matter. And that's kind of the beauty of the barn. It's not it's not our home.
It's not sacred.
But I get that, and I think that's something to definitely consider near your home. Absolutely. Laura said, only 28 holes. I'll zip through those pretty quickly. Who else could say that? Well, yesterday I dug like 200 holes, so 28 was not bad. Tomorrow we're going to be digging about 460 holes.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, it's perspective, I guess. Next video was planting in the Persephone garden, repotting mangaves, and 24 more big tilapia for the pond. So I planted the Surefire rose begonias around the boxwoods in the Persephone garden, repotted a couple of mangaves. Which variety are they? Aztec King, I think, which get really big. And they look beautiful where they ended up. I love them. And then I showed you the 24 big tilapia. They had been released in our pond the night before when we were at your parents' retirement party, and Paul came in, which was so nice. He came in after hours, met Dalton here, and what's Dalton's business name?
Snake River
Aquatics. Anyway, the pond's looking much better. However, we've made some discoveries. Having a pond in Eastern Oregon is a different kind of animal, and I think everyone is starting to realize that.
Yeah, I think everything we do is a little bit different. People talk about how easy some things are, and it's like, not here.
Yeah.
It's never easy here.
I mean, we don't struggle with Japanese beetles or boxwood blight or, boxwood moths or like we all have our things.
Yeah, that's true.
For sure.
That's true. Mm-hmm. We're just the ones dealing with our things.
Yeah.
But, so the ion gens which they installed 2.
They emit some kind of a...
You know what? It doesn't matter what
element.
they do. It doesn't matter what they do because they don't work.
No, they don't.
With our high pH and our hard water, it's out of range of what so it's basically the same as what we were doing with like iron deficient plants. We need EDDHA, like not even EDTA iron that is maybe more common. So anyway, the ion gen doesn't work. I think we're going to pull that out. My guess is that the SAB also is out of range.
String algae buster. That's what that is.
But it's labeled SAB.
Yeah.
Because we put so much SAB in the pond.
It was doing nothing.
And it really just didn't have any effect. I told Greg at one point how much I was putting in. And he was like, dude, I've never put that much in my pond. Like, and I'm the pond guy. Like, I've never used that much in my lifetime at his personal ponds. Yeah.
We're wondering if we can actually have an ecosystem.
Yeah, I don't know.
Jury's still out on that.
Yeah, maybe either one, if we do the ecosystem approach where we're trying to stay organic, maybe algae is just what we have every year.
And that's a hard no for me.
Or two, maybe it turns into just needing to use algicide every year.
Which I don't care.
I don't know. Is algicide harmful to the fish?
No.
Oh, yeah. Maybe I don't know.
It's just taking an approach that we were trying not to take, but it's kind of like using the biological insect control method. We tried for 2 years releasing, like last year we released close to 1 million biologicals, like beneficial spider mites and beneficial other things. And it just didn't work because we're too spread out. We don't have monoculture. Yeah. It just didn't work, but we gave it a 2-year trial.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We're going to still feel, if the pond was in more shade, of course, that would be helpful as well. But it's going to be, I don't know how long before that happens.
So the tilapia seem to be working.
Yeah.
However, you have to wait till the water is fairly warm to put them in.
Yeah.
And at that point, your pond is just full of algae. So you can't put them in early in the season. We have a plan, I think, for keeping them around.
Yeah. We're going to keep as many of the tilapia as we can. We've got a project we're going to do in the
another
fall.
issue is that we have a section of the pond that's like up above and there are no tilapia up there, and so there's a lot of algae up there. So maybe we can move a couple tilapia up there, but I feel like they're just going to fall down the falls.
We need to net the fall so that
I don't think that's good.
That's the only reason, or the only way to keep the fish.
Yeah.
It's so shallow too. I don't know, would it be okay for them to be in that shallow of water? It's right below the first waterfall in the Dream Stream. It's it's a pretty wide area, but it's fairly shallow.
Yeah, Dalton said that when it gets shallow, the tilapia may just swim back to where it's a little deeper. So they may not even test going over the falls. So I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. Jeannie said, you said the tilapia will not winter over. What will you do with them? We're going to try to save as many as possible, like we just mentioned. Chris, our fan, said if the tilapia eat all the string algae, what do they do for food after their job is done? We'd have to start feeding them. In fact, I don't know. At this point, I still think that they have enough food in there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of green fuzz algae in there. There's still string algae, in that.
Yeah.
The pool up. Yeah.
If they wanted food, there's still plenty.
There's still plenty. Yeah.
But we can feed them as well.
Yeah, we've been starting to give them little treats here and there. Not a lot, just a little bit. El Costantino said, will the big fish eat the baby fish and eggs? Do you have a cage babies can swim in and hide? There's lots of nook and crannies where the babies can swim and hide. And I think some of them will get eaten, but...
I think Greg was saying that they hide in the biofalls.
Okay.
Like underneath, there's like a reservoir, like a huge reservoir under there.
They get between the rocks somehow?
Well, it's like they might go through the pump. And get sucked down there and then work their way back up.
Gotcha.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. There's lots of babies in there right now. I think they're baby mosquito fish, though, which are awesome. I read up on them, and they do eat on string algae a little bit.
Oh, good.
And some other invertebrates. And they also, their main thing is they eat tons, hundreds of mosquito larvae in a day, a single mosquito fish. So I think that's awesome. Lisa said, just curious, in real time, how long did it take you to aug all the holes for this one? I tried to judge by the moving shadows, but couldn't tell for sure. Oh, what do you think it took me to aug all those holes? The 28 holes. For the boxwoods and the hydrangeas, it probably took 10, 15 minutes.
Oh.
No.
Oh, I mean for planting and everything.
Yeah, it probably took... It took me longer to get them set out, to be honest, to get them measured out and stand back and look. To dig the holes, it was probably 10, 15 minutes. That doesn't include all the annuals. The annuals, you set them out to dig all those holes. It was probably between 5 and 10 minutes. Doesn't take too long once you've got your plant sitting there. JRP58 said, I love the idea of the new seating area by the pond. It looks like you can also see the play area from that vantage point. Yes, you can. Question, if you do remove the big stump from the pond, will you repurpose it somewhere near? It's such a great architectural piece. Yeah, most likely. We did utilize the big trunk that was underneath that sort of chicken coop area when we bought the property right behind the barn. So Natural Tree was here, and I asked them if they could just cut it off like right at the ground level before they ground it out, and then we moved it with the tractor over to the pond area, and that one's kind of tucked underneath a spruce tree right there, and I really like it. I planted some chamomile in front of it, and there's a baptisia that kind of hugs the side of it, so it looks a little bit more incorporated now. Devin said, I'm just getting into the succulents and struggling to figure out if I'm overwatering or underwatering. Any tips? I have one that keeps having leaves turn yellow and then falling off. That's probably a little bit of an overwatering, I'm guess, situation. If they start to dry up, then it might be an underwatering situation, but the yellowing usually means they're waterlogged. It's just finding that balance, you know. Like our succulents in here, they probably get water realistically every couple weeks. And they seem to do okay with that, even the tiny little 2-inch ones. And I would say that I still lose more in here to overwater than to underwater. If they are outside, however, or in the Hartley where it's hotter and they're getting wind, they get water. The ones in the Hartley get water in the middle of summer probably once a week, if not twice a week. And those are positioned, you know, the ones in the big bird bath, they're positioned kind of in an area where when it is windy, they'll get quite a lot of breeze, and it is very hot in there. Easy to forget person said, is there a chance you guys are interested in growing lotus in the pond, or would it get too massive? I really know nothing about lotus.
Probably would be like a tropical thing.
Well, definitely. Yeah.
But you could keep them alive maybe in
the greenhouse?
The greenhouse?
I don't know. I'm interested in growing lots of things, and so I'd always be interested in giving something a try. So maybe one of these years we'll try that out.
Where did you plant the other boxwoods? You planted these boxwoods next
along
to
the Hartley walkway.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that hasn't come out yet?
No.
Okay.
Aaron said, so cool, love your pond. Would you consider just putting a heater in it for the winter? To heat that size of an area, I don't even know what it would take to heat that. That would be insane to keep it warm enough for tilapia.
No, you have to keep it like 70.
Oh, yeah.
60 or 70
I don't
or something
think that
like
would be possible, to be quite honest, unless we covered it. And I don't even know then what it would take. Next video is removing the wisteria, planting the hydrangea pots that I mentioned earlier, and then I planted more full sun annuals out in the garden, which were beautiful. The Bidens, the marshmallow Bidens, the Peachy Keen Superbena, and the Safari Dusk, I think, James Britannia, right? Or no, it was Safari Sky. It was such a beautiful kind of soft color palette. Lene said, we have the same string algae problem. We haven't had luck finding tilapia. We are in Oregon. Any idea on where we can find some?
Hit up Dalton at Snake River Aquatics, I think.
We'll put a correction on the screen if that's wrong.
If that's wrong, yeah.
Anyway, you can definitely get some from him. Fiba Kashi said, the containers look so good. Thank you. I have a hibiscus growing right in between my huge lilac tree, and if I put the stem killer on it, will it damage my lilac? No. It just goes through the system of the plant that you're treating. It won't leach over into your lilac. Karen Johnson said, do you have wisteria anywhere else on your property? Would you try growing it again? I absolutely would try growing it again in the proper location. Now, when I planted it, it was more proper. I had it on the arbor, which I knew was not going to be enough for that size of wisteria. But at the time I planted it, we had that little tool shed. Like, this is way back when we still had all the evergreens back there, and we still had the gazebo. And I was planning on training a lot of the wisteria over the tool shed and kind of like hanging down, like clusters of blooms hanging over the front of the tool shed. So that was my main goal in having the vine right there. But that space had just evolved and changed so much that was no longer a good fit. And boy, taking that out, it's kind of like seeing the plum tree at Andrew's Gone this morning. It's like, oh, this is good. Aaron's smiling smugly because he knows that I usually feel that way.
Hey, what are your thoughts about the little fence in the Persephone garden being gone?
Oh,
thoughts?
Well, except for the fact, okay, you want to know what happened? I knew this was going to happen. I knew if there was no fence there that somebody was going to think that it was a circular driveway. Even though if you take 1 second to glance at the space, you can enter it where that opening used to be, where the fence, but it necked it down too much for a car. You can enter it, but then you're quickly stopped. Like, it doesn't go anywhere. So we just had the brick border done, right? Next to the area Aaron just seeded with grass, and there's maple trees. And there was a Amazon delivery guy who came in and tried to use that whole area as a turnaround, which it absolutely is not. And I mean, there's like clearly an easier turnaround right ahead of it.
Yeah.
Anyway, he ran over the bricks and damaged them, and we have to have them fixed already. I knew that would happen without the fence there.
I think you could maybe drive over the bricks on a normal day. It was kind of just like a comedy of errors because our gate was broken.
I don't want anybody driving over anything that's like clearly not to be driven over.
Yeah. You're right. But the ground was soft because I was seeding the grass. So the ground where the grass is growing is like, it's pretty soft right there. So it's like you can't drive over it today because it's getting more water than normal to stay moist for the seedlings.
So it's like a 10-foot, 15-foot section that has to be repaired.
I don't know what is up with delivery drivers being like, hold on. The UPS guys are good. I have no problem with our UPS guys in our area. And maybe even like FedEx guys are not bad. But it's always the Amazon drivers.
Yeah. And they're always in smaller cars, like the van.
Yeah, they're in the vans. Like that should be easy. Like the UPS guys are, maybe that's the problem, is that like UPS guys are more trained. And
maybe.
At least ours.
Yeah.
And they're reliable. I feel like we have the same like FedEx and UPS guys over and over.
You get familiar with each other.
Yeah,
and like,
it's
hey,
always a new Amazon driver. And they hit our cameras, they hit our fence, and most of the time I don't file a claim or anything. But this time I'm trying to go through the process. It just makes me mad. And they shouldn't have even been on the property, but our gate just happened to be malfunctioning and it was stuck open. And so right at that moment, the Amazon guy comes through. But like that was the whole point of getting the gate, is like, you guys you don't know how to drive, so I don't even want you on my property, period. Just leave it out.
That solved a lot of problems.
Oh, it solved so many issues.
Yeah, and the gate's fixed now. Aaron fixed it, so always something, always something. That's just life. Okay, I don't know where we were. We kind of just did a huge tangent. Yeah. Jennifer said, how long will it take for the stump to decompose after putting the stump killer on it? Do you need to grind it up after or dig it out? Always enjoy watching your videos. I don't know how long it takes for a stump to decompose after using that. Like, I can still see the stumps from the sumac. Probably quicker the more moisture you get. Yeah. I mean, just like everything. And you can grind them out. I would say wait until, the tree has taken in all of that stuff. Like maybe grind it out the next season or something, or later in the season after it's like good and dead. Yeah. But
I would think just a few years.
I'm just planting around ours.
Yeah.
The sumacs anyway. Yeah. And I'll just probably plant around the wisteria until it becomes a problem. And at which point I'll probably just kind of dig around and use our reciprocating saw and cut out what I can if it's in my way. Ob and Jones said, would it be okay to cut branches off an oak tree to limb it up? I've heard I should wait until winter when the sap is back in the trunk, but I noticed the branches you cut off the ash tree were pretty large like ours would be. I think the rule of thumb is just not to take more than 20%. That's kind of what I've always heard. So, I mean, take that for what it is. We cut branches all the time. I mean, we don't cut massive. I mean, the ash tree, the branch was like this, but it was like a nearly dead. There wasn't a lot of life in that branch. There was still life, but not. Yeah. It was like kind of fizzling out.
I don't know. Yeah, I think you just want to get to things when they're small. Mm-hmm. So yeah, maybe if you haven't been cutting branches, maybe you do want to wait. Mm-hmm. But like I go around, I feel like early spring is really common. I'll go around early spring and just cut a lot of the lower branches off of a ton of trees, like a lot of the maples along the lane, because I want to make sure every year I get those limbed up more and more to where you can, a 6 foot tall person can like easily walk under them. Yeah. But you also don't want them in the beginning. You don't want lollipops. Yeah. So you have to kind of wait and just every year take a couple branches, maybe no branches, but yeah, maybe a few.
So I don't know how big your oak tree is, but it's probably okay, I'm guessing, to take off a couple of lower branches. Suzanne said, is there any hydrangea that will hold up to the full sun all day in Central Oregon? Limelight? Yes. Limelight, Quickfire Fab, Limelight Prime, Firelight Tidbit. What?
Paniculata.
Anything paniculata in that line. So panicle type hydrangeas. You will need to add an extra drip emitter though. That's the only way that we can get ours to withstand the full sun. So we'll have our normal drip system running around to everything, and then we'll run it by the hydrangeas, and then wherever there's a hydrangea, we'll just pop in an extra like 1 gallon per hour emitter or 2 gallon per hour emitter, depending on the size of the plant. And so they get a little bit more water than everything else. So we can target that water straight to the plant instead of watering everything else around it that much. And that seems to keep them happy. And we have Limelight Primes out, like they get full sun all day. Mm-hmm. And they're in the wind, they're in all of that. and they do great. Donna said, what did you say the name was of those pink flowers that had a beautiful scent when you drove by? Those are in Nemesia. They're an annual, but they're an Aromance series. So Aromance pink, there's Aromance mulberry, which we have kind of in the same area. The mulberry are further down on the pond berm. Boy, they smell good. Even your dad the other day. Yeah. His parents came over and pulled their trailer in and stayed the night last weekend, and the kids loved it. They were back and forth from the trailer, but he walked by and he's like, what is that smell? So I had to point out those flowers. They are wonderful. Riwa the Explorer said, how do you break hard pan areas? Gypsum or just adding organic matter? Both.
And water.
And water. So help soften it up. So, yep. It's just continuously adding those things in. Just over time, the soil will eventually get better. Okay, next video is tour of the new 2026 annuals and planting them out, a bunch of them out in the garden. So this year, instead of doing our video in the winter, which is typically when I'll do like videos of new plants coming out because it's an easy time of year just to sit and chat about plants, which I love doing. But this year I thought it would be fun to wait until I had them in my hands. And we've had them since the beginning of April. So we've had them for a couple of months in containers. I've been able to see what like truly the colors look like and how they're growing, at least in containers for us. And it's just easier to be able to hold a plant and show you like, this is what the plant looks like. And I enjoyed that a lot. So I hope you guys enjoyed that too. It's fun talking about new plants that are coming out. And then we did plant out several, like 3 different sections in the garden with some of the new ones. And I planted up one drought tolerant container that's so pretty. I love the mix of plants. I hope it does well. Cheryl said, such beautiful new flowers. Thank you for sharing. Are you using Hollytone instead of starter fertilizer? I did in this video because that's what I had in my gator. So I'll do that from time to time. I just didn't go out to get a new bag of Biotone. Thalia said, gorgeous plants. I'm curious though, so many varieties that I have never seen plants like gladiolus or carnations. Very common here in South Europe. Don't they thrive there? They do. Gladiolus we have to plant like as an annual, because it's too cold here in the winter for them to survive. And I planted them in the cut flower garden, I think the first and second year that we had it. I just haven't done them for the last couple of years. And carnations, you wanted to try some dianthus out.
Yeah.
Which the common, or the botanical name. I did grow a bunch of different carnations in our cut flower garden too. And I was a little underwhelmed by their performance. They were pretty, but not as, like if you were actually growing them for cutting, I don't know, I might need different like growing climate or setup for those. You know, some things do better if you tunnel them or grow them under, grow them under cover with a little bit of shade cloth. And they grew beautifully. They just weren't, like maybe I should have done that Hortanova netting to kind of help hold everything upright. I don't know. I take a very loose approach when it comes to cut flowers, that's for sure. She Beast said, our pink evening primrose has a pleasant scent. Does the new yellow primrose smell good too? You know, I didn't smell it like up close, but I didn't really notice anything in the air. But I'll probably want to go smell it now that you've said that. Laura said, you have so many beautiful roses. If you had to choose one rose variety for health, number of blooms, and bloom time, which one would it be?
Zephyrin.
No, super not Zephyrin.
Evelyn.
No. I would say Boscobel is a very productive bloomer, and it's a David Austin, they've got very full, wonderfully scented roses. The Flavorette honey apricots, very productive. Color perfection on those. Boy, I have a lot of beautiful ones. The Poet's Wife, At Last. The Reminiscent Pink are gorgeous. The Lady Gardener, Vanessa Bell, State of Grace, Heavenly Scent. Ooh, All Dressed Up. That's a good one. That pink one.
Yeah.
That has the big glossy leaves. Pope John Paul II, I think. What?
She asked for one rose. You're like,
oh,
this one,
there's some really beautiful ones.
Basically, it's an impossible question.
It kind of is. It kind of is. Grand Marie said, the bright yellow flower you referred to as sunglow, what is the name of the actual plant for 2026? It's a type of Onethera. They call it it's a Texas primrose. They also have a Callilophus hybrid on there, and Superlophus sunglow Texas primrose is the name on the tag. So there you go. It has lots of names. YT579 said, always enjoy seeing what's new. At 1340, you are in front of a tree that has some very bright yellow leaves. What plant is that and what zone is it? I love one for my garden. That is a Rising Sun Redbud. And I was going to plant that out yesterday. It didn't quite work into my projects, but it's going to go out here really soon. I've got the perfect spot for it. It kind of has, it's got a huge amount of color range on it, especially when the new growth is coming out. And it has the heart-shaped leaves. It doesn't get super huge. It's a very good like centerpiece plant. And Toynette said, is it my imagination or is this the most annuals Laura has ever planted going to be so beautiful?
It probably is this year.
Do you think so?
Well, because you planted so many things from seed last year. Like you focused so much energy on your cut flower garden.
Yeah.
And time.
I did. And this year I was pretty relaxed with my seedlings. And then I don't know if I mentioned, but I started 600 Snapdragon seedlings and it was getting a little, maybe I mentioned this already. If I did, I'm sorry, but I had them in the greenhouse. They were getting kind of like, I needed to get them planted out and a couple of them sent up bloom stalks. And I just thought I'm going to look in there and just see inside the bloom thrips in like 2 blooms. They had 2 blooms on them.
Wow.
In the greenhouse and I threw all of them away. Like even Bethany wouldn't take them, and she takes a lot of stuff.
She'll take anything.
Yeah. But those are impossible to treat because you can't, even if you were to spray them, you can't contact kill them because they're inside the flowers. So I just thought, nope, I think I need to just skip Snapdragons for a few years.
Sure.
And I don't know. I have like this now desire to check every Snapdragon that I come across out in the wild too. I'm like, let's see if you have thrips. Probably a lot of people do and don't even realize. I hope you don't, but They like Snapdragons a lot. Okay, the last group of questions are from last week's recap. Katrina said, could you share again the variety of nectarine tree you have in the orchard? You rave about it every fall and I get jealous to try a bite. It's a flavor top nectarine. They do not need a pollinator. They don't require it. They're just an amazing tree. Janet Loving said, are the water level thingies available for the standard aquapots? That would be really nice. I'm having to guess and sometimes I don't guess too well. I get that. And I think that's been a recent addition. The little water indicators that are now coming in them. And I haven't tested those out yet. So we'll see. Like when they come in the pot, they're kind of bent weird. And I'm afraid if they go in bent, they're just going to get stuck on the side of the...
Oh, sure.
So I think maybe laying them out in the sun or warming them up so they can get straight again might be helpful. And then like introduce them to cold water so they stay that way.
Yeah.
Might be a good idea. Seren's YouTube said, how do you guys protect yourselves from ticks? I actually saw a Facebook post from somebody local who said ticks were out and bad this year. So I was kind of like, oh, I've been kind of tromping around on the hillside looking for puppies. And like there's tall weeds and stuff and I just haven't seen any. But, we keep a pretty close eye on the kids and stuff. So we would notice if we had some tick infestation. But cats are clean. We're clean so far.
I've never seen a tick here.
Really?
Yeah.
I have out at my parents' house. But that was when I was young. And I couldn't eat Cheerios for like a whole year after smashing a tick. Did you ever have anything weird like that?
No. What's the connection?
Well, it's like the popping sound of the tick breaking. Like I stepped on it to kill it on the deck, and it made like the same crunch that a Cheerio.
Oh, that's bizarre.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
And I correlated that, and I just couldn't do it. I could not eat Cheerios. I eat Cheerios now. I love Cheerios. This is something weird I have a lot of weird things go on in my brain. Okay, Lisa Trainer said, thank you for answering my question regarding the Boom Chocolata geraniums having powdery mildew. Can you tell me what the geraniums are on the side of your house at 4007 at the, oh yes, those are the, I just planted more of, is it Karina geranium? I just planted more Karina, I think they're Karina geraniums. I just planted some in a recent video like a week or 2 ago. Dancing with Roses said, would the new aquapot inserts work for the city pots? Love all that you do. They probably would.
Yeah, next time they get cleaned out.
Yeah,
maybe.
we can suggest them,
Yeah.
depending on how they work for us this summer. Melinda said, Cherry, what about the multi-type fancy grafted trees? Are those garbage or a valid choice? I think they're a valid choice. I think they're really fun when you can find like 6 different apple varieties or cherry varieties on the same tree. And that would probably be the way I'd need to go about it because I would love to put a cherry, I think I mentioned, in a container and keep it more espaliered of sorts, but just in a smaller tree shape, but keep it pruned down. But most cherries need a pollinator. A lot of them need a pollinator. So I was thinking like, I don't really want to have 2 cherry trees. I don't know. Cherries just seem like a whole lot of work to me. And I'm not like the apple trees are enough work bagging those apples, but I'm not going to go about and bag individual cherries. And I don't really want to have to spray as much as you have to for cherries. You have to spray a lot to keep the worms out. So I just have avoided that up to this point. It might be something that I decide to put in. We are going to have to replace another apricot tree in our orchard. It's got that sap oozing out of it again. I don't know. So I'm thinking no more apricots. Like at least not in the spots that they're in. Maybe there's something going on there. But maybe we'll put in a cherry. We shall see. Sheila said, oh my goodness, we also love camping. We started in tents and moved up to a pop-up camper, and then we grew up and got older and bought a camper. We did a whole lot of camping for years. You've been looking at campers.
Yeah.
It's kind of fun to look through different styles and setups. And...
It's so hard to know what kind of camping you want to do.
Yeah.
We went camping a lot as a kid, and it was rarely ever dry camping. You know, we always went places that had like electric hookups and, you know, things like that.
A bathroom.
Yeah, a bathroom and things like that. Like state campgrounds and stuff like that. And I liked it. I liked that kind of camping because it was like kind of low effort and like low commitment.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, if you're like hiking up somewhere and tent camping, that's a lot of...
It's more like clean camping. Like
it was
convenient.
I mean, it's like a cheap, it's almost like hotel camping, but you know, inexpensive.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know what kind of... Half the battle is just getting away from your environment, just going somewhere with trees. To me, you know, going somewhere with trees. There's a lot of campgrounds around here that are kind of like dry, desolate camping, and that's not my thing at all. I like big pine trees and aspens, and
you don't have to go very far around here to get to it. So
a couple hours,
which is nice. Or not even that far. I mean, if you want, well, I guess for that kind of campground, maybe. Yeah. Yeah. The rest of Sheila's comments said, tell me, why is it Bermuda grass isn't popular? Here in 8A, I guess that's the only grass I'm familiar with, or maybe St. Augustine. Yeah, here, if we get Bermuda grass, it's like the most noxious weed ever. And I know different places like northern and southern climates will grow different varieties of grass. And like there are some places like where you live where you want Bermuda grass. And it just does better for you and performs better for you. And it probably isn't invasive for you like it is for us. Here, if you get it, it's like getting controlled bindweed.
I think I've noticed the seeds are often just referred to as warm season grass and cool season grass. And we always plant cool season grasses. Yeah. And yeah, if you're in a 8 or 9 zone, you're probably going to be going with a warm season. Yeah. I wonder what you do if you're kind of in the middle though. If you're like in a 6B or a 7A or even a 7B, because maybe you could do either one.
Maybe so. I don't know. The Bermuda grass that I'm familiar with that we try to get rid of grows more like flat, doesn't it? And it's more wide bladed. Yeah. It's not like a really uniform.
It's not as fine. Yeah,
I suppose when it's all together though.
The cooler season grasses seem to be more fine.
Interesting. I'll have to like Google some images of like a Bermuda grass lawn. See what it looks like. Margarita said, when is the best time of the year to place an order with Sutton's Iris Farm? You know, I follow on Instagram and I find that helpful. If you've got something you're really interested in, they'll usually post updates about like, because I know that they've shut off ordering for now because they're sold out. But I think that they're going to open up orders like in January because that's when they know the new introductions that are coming out and some of those things, I think. I don't know. I'll have to look into that to know for sure. Island to Acreage said, thanks for all your tips. I have a large property I'm trying to manage on a beginner level. What tip do you have to make the biggest impact quickly for a small budget? Biggest impact with a small budget.
That's super dependent on what you like. Like I'm a tree guy, so I would say plant as many trees as you can. So like start now with that stuff on whatever budget you have. So that means if you're planting little tiny whips, go for it. If you can afford to get however big a trees your budget will allow, get that. But like that's me, you know, for someone else.
Even though I like and I'm interested in other plants and I love to plant other like things that flower and beautiful things, I think I would go with trees first. Yeah. Because
they take the longest. If you plan on being there for a while, you'll thank yourself 20 years down the road.
Because there's a lot of other things you can be working on while the trees are establishing. You could be working on like cutting out your flower beds and maybe getting the borders done. If you want to do a rock border or a brick border or whatever kind of border you want to do, you can get that set up. You can start working on your soil in those areas too before there are plants. You know, you can be working on eradicating noxious weeds that you might be dealing with like bindweed before you get plants in there. So I think, I mean, it's not going to make a huge impact if you're starting with real small things, but in the long run, it will make the most impact on your space for sure. Yeah. And if you can hack it, put some annuals out, you know, get a Supertunia Vista bubble gum. That's going to create big color, even if you've got some big, beautiful pots in front of your house and that's your flowers. And then you've got your trees, you know, set up and going. I think I would go that route.
The things that make the biggest long-term investment are going to look the worst to begin with. The things that make the smallest long-term investment, like annuals, they're going to look good today, But
maybe having a balance of both
yeah,
is helpful, because then it can kind of whet that appetite just a little bit and give you something pretty to look at. And so it's not just like, oh, you know.
sure.
Casey said, one year I had planted several different colors of iris and they were beautiful, but the following year they all turned a dark purple. Has this happened to anyone else? Is this common? Needless to say, I ended up removing them all. Oh, bummer. I have not had that happen. I haven't had them revert. So is it a situation where one could have died out and the other one could have kind of taken over? I mean, I don't know how irises work in terms of pollinating one another when you've got irises close together. So maybe some of you guys could jump in, because I am not the iris expert. I hope to become more knowledgeable as I plant more of them next year. Well, not next year, this fall, which at this point feels like next year. Anyway, guys, that is it for today's recap video. We made it through all the questions. Thank you all so much for watching our videos this past week and for asking such good questions. It looks like, I don't even know if I'm gonna get outside today and plant. I don't know, I have my gator full of beautiful things that I wanna get out and going, but it's kind of rainy and windy still. So we'll see, but we'll enjoy it while we have it. So thank you guys so much for watching today's video. Remember the sale on the EDDHA chelated iron, 25% off for 1 week starting today at gardenanswer.com. We will see you in the next video. Bye.